Hey and welcome. So in this video I'm going to be going through the 4 boss levels of Ultimate Doom, just talking about what I like, what I don't like, giving my general impressions and just generally having a good time with them. Now this is Phobos Anomaly, this is E1M8, this comes at the end of Knee Deep in the Dead. As you can see here, these pinkies have been a bit of a pain. These pinkies are actually kind of a nice little introduction to this level, because it kind of makes you wary of what this level might have to offer. The barrels are really good at getting rid of them though, so it's not too much of a pain. Even when you're pistol starting, you can probably manage what's going on in that room. My one gripe with this level, I guess, is that it kind of isn't really much of a level. Like, once you've got rid of all these pinkies here, you're pretty much off to the races, to the boss, and I get that. We'll grab this secret before we head off up here. This moment here is very iconic for me. I think that this is obviously very cool. Watching the 2 barons come out of the little chambers. There's a bunch of spectres in this room. I'm not a fan of the toxic roof, and generally I don't like this room. I think that like the star shape is a bit on the nose. It's a bit on the nose, but in terms of like the actual combat in this room, I am a fan. I do like the fact that the spectres kind of act as meat shields. So if you come in here with a rocket launcher, you need to be very careful. But the way when I was a kid, the way I used to tackle this was I'd actually go in the middle. I tried to keep them on the stairs and sort of shoot them through the middle. I didn't really want them coming down here, because obviously when you're a kid, you find things a lot more difficult, and I always found it really difficult if they sort of came down the stairs here. But this is a really fun boss fight. These guys offer up a fair challenge, and honestly, like, apart from just how this looks and the shape of the room, I don't hate this. I actually think it's pretty cool. I like how the walls come down here to kind of make it feel like a grand exit, like, oh, okay, we're heading out here. Just wanted to point out this as well. This is a secret that was added in after the original release, so you can get back to the rest of the level. I don't know how I feel about this though, and I've never really kind of clicked with this ending, just because I feel like this room where you get attacked, it's a great story moment because it's kind of like an ambush, but at the same time it's kind of like, I just want to kill all the enemies. But I don't think Phobos Anomaly is bad. In fact, I think it's pretty fun. I guess I just wish there was a bit more to it. Like this, the pinkies are really fun to fight, and the boss battle is pretty engaging, but I just kind of wish that there was a bit more to it, if you get what I mean. It feels, especially with how strong and consistent Knee Deep in the Dead levels are. But anyway, let's move on to the next level, Tower of Babel, or Babel, whichever way you want to describe it. So I love this opening room. I love how the barons are kind of hanging off the wall, especially considering they were the bosses of the last episode. I think it's a really nice way to tell the player that whatever's on this level is not here to play. I do like how these doors shut as well, because it kind of throws you out of your comfort zone. Well, obviously I'm cheating a bit there by diving back in. The Lost Souls here on the higher difficulties I do like. I feel that the Lost Souls, they're at their best as enemies when they're kind of used like this, as like little nuisances to distract you from the big fight here. The Cyber Demon itself, like, obviously, great boss enemy, iconic enemy. You know, you can't really go wrong with a Cyber Demon fight. And the fact that this level doesn't give you a plasma rifle, you have to do it with a rocket launcher, it's a very nice escalation. I like this level. I feel like this is a much better arena than what you'll see in a minute with this. I feel like there's, like, because of the towers, because of how, like, the Cyber Demon, you can lose sight on the Cyber Demon, and because of the Lost Souls sort of darting around, it adds a lot of tension to the fight, because you don't want to get too close because he'll catch you, but you obviously don't want to get too far away because you're worried that, like, you know, you might run into a wall and shoot yourself. It's very easy to frag yourself with a rocket launcher here. But yeah, obviously, if you know what you're doing, this boss fight isn't that difficult. But for me, Tower of Babel is just, it's a fun end to the Shores of Hell. I think it knows what it is. It's a little arena battle. Could they have put more enemies in? I think on the PS1 version they do it better, because there's mancubuses walking around as well, and they add a lot more danger. But But for what it is, the level does exactly what it needs to. It doesn't outstay its welcome, and it doesn't try bolting on a half-assed level. I think it just gets to the point, and I think that's what you kind of want out of it, because the showpiece is that Cyber Demon fight. Why put too much between you and it? So yeah, really strong level. Unfortunately, we'll now dive into the complete opposite, in my opinion. So this is Dis E3M8, and I have a few problems with this level. I don't like the fact that this was the original stopping off point for Doom 1. I think that this is a very lackluster way to end the original Doom. And I'm kind of glad that on the console versions they kind of bin this one off in most of the 90s console ports, because it's just not that great, and it's not that fun either. Like, Tower of Babel is a better arena for fighting an enemy, because the Cyber Demon can disappear, you've got lost souls darting around, there's towers for you to run around, potentially damage yourself. Where's the danger here? Like, as soon as the Spider Mastermind starts shooting at you, you can just sort of hide behind this little room in the middle, and there's no real danger, because as soon as you're out of sight, that's it. There's nothing to really, cause danger. And these guys here, like the Caco Demon here and the Baron there, they don't really pose that much of a danger. In fact, as you can see here, I'm trying to get them to infight because it's just more interesting than just killing the Spider Mastermind outright, which I could easily do. I guess, like, the rush at the start of the level where you have to run around the outside to get the ammo is pretty interesting, but I don't know. I just think that this is a very weak boss level in general. I think there's a lot more they could have done with this level. If this was a room at the culmination of a much better level, I think I'd forgive it a lot more. But the fact that this is the only part of this level, and the game basically puts it down and says, this is the final encounter. No, I don't think it's a great arena. I think it's very boring, bland, and it doesn't really make you feel like you're at the end of a great game. It just feels like this was thrown together in an hour because they needed a final level. And that's just my honest opinion. I know people might disagree, but anyway, let's dive into Unto the Cruel. So this is Unto the Cruel, E4M8, and as you can see, it's kind of a different beast to what the other boss levels are. And for the most part, that's great, because I think that this is exactly what a boss level in Doom should be. This feels like a natural escalation of the tension throughout the episode. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of shotgunners and zombie men out here, a few spectres thrown in. It's a full-on assault, and you feel like you're in a bit of a battle, which is kind of what you want when you're kind of geeing yourself up to face a boss enemy. And what I like about this level is that there's kind of a natural escalation going on here, because you start off with this and then you head off to another area where there's a lot of increasingly more difficult enemies. One thing I do not like that the key is in that wall. I think that a lot of players might eventually get there, but it's a bit... I don't like it when you hide keys in secrets like that. But this takes you to another area completely, and there's a courtyard here where you kind of gotta dash around, kill all the enemies. There's Caco Demon shooting at you, there's imps, there's a Baron up there, there's a shotgunner on the other side. So you can see that there's a lot of different enemy types being thrown at you here. And this is a nice little play area for you to kind of take on all these enemies. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is the best level design, but what I am saying is that this, like for example this here, you're fighting a Baron with 2 Caco Demons, 3 actually, there's 3 Caco Demons backing him up. That's an intense fight there. And I've forgotten the plasma rifle down bottom, I'll go and pick that up in a minute. But you can see like there's a lot to do here, and the level's kind of forcing you to fight all these enemies if you want to get to that boss. So there's a bit of a tension in this level that you don't find in the other boss levels. This room also is kind of a bit unique. There's no other room like this in Ultimate Doom where you basically get a bunch of ammo and a bunch of goodies that you can grab at your own leisure. I think this kind of makes this level a bit too easy, because by the time you get to the Spider Mastermind, you've kind of got all the weapons that you'll need to take him out. But it's here for the players that are probably thinking, this is a bit beyond their pay grade. I'll drop down here and kill this shotgunner. Yeah, so I've killed the shotguns down here. There's a few enemies up top here that I'm going to get rid of quickly. What I like as well is that this level kind of forces you to work towards a goal. I think this as a level puts you more to the test on your skills, because obviously when you're fighting all the hit scanners at the start, you've got to be moving quickly, and then you've got to move quickly again when you get into the next room. These fights with the barons here, if you're smart, you'll back away from them, and you'll just trap them on that middle ledge. So we do need to grab the yellow key, which is a bit further down here. Grab that blue arm. Oh, there's some enemies here. But there is an escalation in this level. It's not a case of like just seeing pinkies and spectres. And I'm not saying that the other levels were weaker for doing that. But what I am saying is that this feels like a proper finale to a Doom episode. So grab that plasma rifle. Take out the barons here, because obviously we don't want to leave these guys wandering. We'll grab the yellow key here. And of course, like, this isn't the best designed level. It's not even close to like the best level in Ultimate Doom. But for me, at least it makes an effort to create that sense of, you know, foreboding. Because you're working up, you're trying to equip yourself, you're trying to get ready for this boss fight. And as you can see here, oh, I need to put the other switch. Actually, we'll kill the pinkies down here. I'm not covering at all for the fact that I just fell down here. Take out the pinkies down here. But for me, this is probably my favourite way to do a final level in Ultimate Doom. And probably Doom 2 as well. Although the problem with a lot of the Doom 2 WODs is that a lot of them just stick an icon of sin on the wall and say that's job done, which I have my own problems with Doom 2's icon of sin, which we'll talk about in the future. But this is a good final room because there's such a wide mix of enemies here. You've got Cacodemons, you've got Barons walking around, you've got Lost Souls. So this tries to combine all the things from the previous episodes, because this is a little arena all to itself at the end of the level. And this is what I was saying with Dis a bit earlier on. If Dis had been like this, if like there'd been a level and then you went into that arena with the Spider Mastermind, it probably would have been a lot more fun. It probably would have been a lot better for the gamer. I'm going to grab this BFG. My only problem with the Spider Mastermind is that the fact that you can pretty much one-shot it with a BFG. But I like the idea here, and I guess this is one of the shortcomings from Thy Flesh Consumed. If they'd put in custom enemies, new enemies, maybe a new boss enemy, I think this would have really stood out. But putting a Spider Mastermind in this final room kind of is a bit of a moment. I just don't think the Spider Mastermind is that great as a boss enemy. It's way too weak, and it doesn't have the intimidation factor that the Cyber Demon brings. But this is a nice little arena, and I think that it works for the purposes being set up here. And I definitely think that, you know, this is probably what Dis should have been as a level overall. But yeah, honestly, I do enjoy Unto the Cruel. I think it's a really solid outro for Thy Flesh Consumed and the Ultimate Doom. I think it gets it mostly right. Obviously, there's a few things in the level that I'm not a fan of, but I ultimately think that it does a solid job of putting a bow on Thy Flesh Consumed for players who are probably a bit underwhelmed by Dis and maybe even Tower of Babel, because obviously that isn't much of a level either. But do let me know what you think of the boss levels in Ultimate Doom, and thank you very much for watching.